Right now, somewhere in America, somebody who does everything right, holds down a good job, pays every bill on time, never misses rent, is signing a lease that will eat half of everything they earn. And here's the part that should make your head spin. If you only read the headlines this month, you'd think the crisis was finally ending. The news is practically throwing a party. The national average rent just fell about $90, down to right around $2,000 a month, and everyone is calling it relief. It is not relief. Renting in America is, at this exact moment, the least affordable it has ever been in recorded history. That little $90 dip is not the storm breaking. It is a rounding error perched on top of 10 straight years of slow, grinding insanity. And to understand how it got this twisted, you have to start in a place that sounds like it has nothing to do with rent at all. Because the rent crisis doesn't actually start with rent. It starts with buying a house, or rather, with everyone who suddenly can't. Rewind to 2021, money was basically free. People were locking in mortgages under 3%, the kind of rate your grandparents would have wept over. Then everything changed, and today that same loan runs you around 6.5%. Now look at it through the eyes of a homeowner. Roughly 80% of people with a mortgage in America are sitting on a rate below 6%, and every single one of them has done the math. If they sell their home and buy another one, they trade their cheap loan for today's expensive one. And that swap alone tacks about $1,000 onto their monthly payment for the same house. So they do the only sane thing. They stay put. They don't sell. And when nobody sells, the homes that would normally be for sale just quietly vanish. And this is where the floor starts to tilt. With almost nothing on the market, home prices freeze in place, stuck up around $486,000. And millions of people who saved for years, who were finally ready to buy their first place, get turned away at the door and dumped right back into the one thing they were trying to escape, the rental market. Now, you'd assume those people would be the ones drowning. They're not. A lot of them are doing great. In just 3 years, the number of renters earning $75,000 or more jumped by 1.7 million. Picture what that does to a room. You've got people with real money, people who by every right should be homeowners, now standing in line for the same apartments as everyone else. And they can outbid anybody, so they do. And every renter standing below them, the ones who are already stretched to the bone, just watch the last scrap of leverage they had evaporate into thin air. But here's the part almost nobody is talking about, and it might be the quietest disaster in the entire country. While everyone was busy fighting over apartments, the cheap apartment was going extinct. In a single decade, America lost 7.3 million apartments that rented for under $1,000 a month. Not made more expensive, lost, bulldozed, gutted, and flipped, or simply repriced into oblivion and reopened at $2,000 and up. The bottom rung of the ladder didn't get harder to reach. Somebody sawed it clean off. And for the people who were standing on it, the numbers are genuinely brutal. After paying for housing, the average low-income renter in America has $210 left. Not $210 a week, $210 for the whole month to cover food, gas, medicine, all of it. That is a 60% collapse since 2001, which means one bad day, one car repair, one trip to the emergency room is no longer a setback. It's an eviction notice. Now you're probably picturing this as a big city problem, a thing that happens to other people in expensive places. So look at the map, because the map makes no sense. Yes, it's worst on the coasts. In San Francisco, where the AI boom is minting fortunes and everyone is getting hauled back into the office at the same time, a 2-bedroom apartment now runs about $5,200 a month. In New York, rents have climbed nearly 50% in 5 years. None of that surprises you. But then there's Boise, Idaho, a place people move to specifically to escape this exact problem. In a single year, rents there spiked 32% as remote workers poured in carrying big city paychecks. And the people who actually live there, who earn local wages, suddenly couldn't compete in their own hometown. The insanity wasn't politely staying on the coasts. It packed a bag and followed everyone inland. And now we get to the part that sounds like something a guy screams about on the internet at 3 in the morning. Except this one is real, and it went all the way to federal court. For years, a massive share of America's landlords had quietly handed over one of their most important decisions: what to charge you, to the exact same piece of software, a company called RealPage. Here's how it worked. Normally, your landlord and the landlord across the street are competitors. They're supposed to be fighting over you, undercutting each other, keeping each other honest. But RealPage's program took the private, real-time data from all of them, what every nearby building was actually charging that very day, and fed it into one system that handed each landlord back a recommended price. So sit with what that actually means. The two landlords right across the street from each other weren't competing for you at all. They were both being quietly fed coordinated prices by the same machine, ratcheting rents higher than any honest market would ever have allowed. The Justice Department looked at it and called it exactly what it looked like, an algorithmic price-fixing cartel, and they sued. And by early 2026, landlords had agreed to pay out more than $141 million in settlements and were banned from ever feeding their secret data into that machine again. But the algorithm was just the most sophisticated way to squeeze you. The cruder methods were running the whole time. Take Invitation Homes, one of the biggest corporate landlords in the country. They'd advertise a nice, clean monthly rent, reel you in, and then start bolting on charges that weren't optional in the slightest. A fee for smart home technology, a fee for utility management, and, I promise I am not making this up, a mandatory fee for air filter delivery. It quietly piled up to an extra $1,700 a year until the government stepped in and forced them to refund $47 million to 444,000 renters. And if you go all the way down to the very bottom of the ladder, it somehow gets darker. Private equity firms started quietly buying up mobile home parks all across America until they became the single largest landlords of manufactured housing in the country. And the trap they built is almost perfect, because the people living there own their homes. What they don't own is the dirt underneath them. They rent that. So the new owners just crank up the lot rent year after year, and somebody who fully paid off their house wakes up one day unable to afford the ground it's standing on. So by now, you're probably feeling like this is just how it is. Like rent is a force of nature, a thing that only ever goes up, and the rest of us just brace for impact. And that is the lie I most want to take apart, because there is one American city that broke the entire spell, and it did it in the most boring way imaginable. Austin, Texas had it as bad as anybody. Over a decade, rents there had rocketed up nearly 93%. And then Austin did the unglamorous, unsexy, deeply unthrilling thing that nobody will ever make a movie about. It just let people build. It threw out parking requirements. It loosened the rules that strangled new construction. And over 9 years, it added 120,000 new homes. And then something happened that half this country swears is impossible. Rent went down. By early 2026, the median rent in Austin had actually fallen to right around $1,296, below the national average, while almost everywhere else kept on climbing. In the older, cheaper buildings, rents dropped more than 11% in a single year. Austin didn't stumble onto some secret. It just built so many apartments that, for the first time in years, the landlords had to compete for the tenants again. And that's the whole thing, right there. Everyone wants insane rent to have a single villain: the greedy landlord, the lazy renter, the vague, shrugging economy. But the truth is colder and stranger than any villain, because rent didn't go insane by accident, and it didn't go insane because one bad guy did one bad thing. It went insane because America did two things at the exact same time. It quietly stopped building enough homes, and then it froze the few it had, locking millions of owners inside their cheap mortgages and pouring everyone else into a shrinking pool of apartments. That manufactured scarcity, that is the gasoline. The pricing algorithm, the junk fees, the private equity firms buying the ground out from under people's feet, those weren't the cause. They were just the ones who showed up to light the match. Because when you make something everybody needs artificially scarce, a machine quietly fixing prices, and a company charging you to breathe, filtered air suddenly work beautifully. So the rent isn't insane because the system is broken. The rent is insane because the system is doing exactly what a starved, rigged market is built to do. If this is hitting a little close to home, tell me where you're renting and what it's doing to you down in the comments. Because this map is so much bigger than any one city. And if you ever want the proof that none of this was a law of nature, it's still sitting right there in Austin. One city decided to actually build and watch the impossible thing happen. The rent went down. This was never physics. It was always a choice. And the rest of the country is still choosing it. If you made it all the way here, you already get it. So hit subscribe, because every week we tear into something America swears it already understands.